They called it the perfect digital heist. Millions of passwords, banking details, and private messages stolen without a single victim noticing. Until one security researcher discovered that his smartphone had been recording every letter, number, and symbol he had typed for months. In January 2024, a routine security audit uncovered something that has since sent shockwaves through the mobile industry, but the evidence wasn't hidden in complex code or encrypted files. It was silently collecting in the one place most users never think to check. Security researchers estimate that over 87 million smartphones worldwide are currently recording keystrokes without user knowledge. Your phone could be one of them. What your smartphone knows about your typing patterns could expose your most sensitive information. And the most disturbing part? You authorized it yourself. To understand this vulnerability, we need to first understand how your smartphone processes what you type. Every time your fingers touch the screen, a sophisticated system of sensors and algorithms goes to work. Modern smartphones don't just register which keys you press, explains Dr. Elisa Chen, mobile security researcher at Cyber Defense Institute. They analyze how you press them, the pressure, duration, speed, and even the slight variations in where your finger lands on each key. This technology was developed for a legitimate purpose, to improve typing accuracy. By learning your unique typing patterns, smartphones can better predict what you're trying to type, correct errors, and personalize your experience. These typing patterns create what security experts call a keystroke signature, a unique profile of how you interact with your device that's as distinctive as your fingerprint or voice. But here's where the digital architecture reveals its first vulnerability. The keyboard on your smartphone isn't just a simple input device. It's a sophisticated application with its own permissions, data storage, and connectivity. Most users don't realize that their keyboard is actually a separate application, explains Chen, and like any app, it requests permissions, often far more than it actually needs to function. These permissions can include full network access, storage read-write abilities, background operation authorization, usage tracking capabilities, connection to third-party services. Pause the video right now and check your smartphone's keyboard app permissions. Go to Settings, Apps, Keyboard App Name, Permissions. The number of permissions might shock you. This keystroke data collection was initially designed for legitimate improvements, but in the hands of malicious actors, it becomes something far more dangerous. A keylogger, a tool that records everything you type, from passwords to private messages. And on the digital black market, this information is worth billions. The discovery that would expose this massive data theft began not with a major breach or a dramatic hack, but with a routine security check at a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco. Marcus Reed, a veteran security researcher, was demonstrating a new privacy tool designed to audit smartphone data flows when he noticed something unusual. I was running a standard data flow audit on my own device, Reed explains, just showing how to trace where your data goes after it leaves your phone. That's when I saw an unusual pattern of data being sent from my keyboard application to a server I didn't recognize. What made this discovery particularly troubling wasn't just that data was being sent, it was the timing, volume, and encryption of the transmissions. The keyboard was sending precisely timed packets of data after specific typing sessions, Reed continues. And it wasn't just sending aggregate data for improving predictions, it was sending every keystroke, including in password fields that should never be recorded. Reed's discovery might have remained an isolated curiosity, if not for what happened next. He shared his findings with colleagues at the conference, and within hours, dozens of other security professionals had checked their own devices. The pattern was consistent across multiple devices from different manufacturers using the same popular third-party keyboard app, TypeShift Pro, with over 200 million downloads worldwide. What made this particularly disturbing was the sophistication, explains Dr. Maya Patel, digital forensics expert. This wasn't amateur malware. The data collection was cleverly disguised as normal keyboard functionality improvements, making it virtually undetectable to even vigilant users. The keyboard was recording not just what users typed, but when they typed it, and which applications, and even the corrections they made, creating a complete profile of sensitive information from banking details to private communications. If you use a third-party keyboard app on your phone, this investigation directly affects your digital security. Keep watching to learn if your data has been compromised. When Reed and his colleagues began a deeper investigation, they needed to answer a critical question. Was this a security bug or an intentional data theft operation? We started by reverse engineering the keyboard application, explains Reed. We needed to understand exactly what data was being collected and where it was going. The investigation revealed something alarming. Hidden deep within the keyboard's code was a sophisticated module that activated only after the app had been used for at least 30 days, long after most users would have stopped paying attention to its behavior. This module was collecting far more than just typing patterns. It was recording complete keystroke logs, including in password fields, the names of applications being used, timing patterns that could reveal daily routines, account information entered into forms, private messages and emails, financial information. When investigators traced the data flow, they discovered that the information wasn't being sent to the keyboard developer server for processing. Instead, it was being routed through a complex network of proxy servers before ending up at an unmarked data center in Eastern Europe. This wasn't just a privacy overreach, says Dr. Patel. The elaborate routing system and the timing of the transmissions showed all the hallmarks of a deliberate data theft operation. When security researchers cross-referenced the timing of the keyboard data collection with known data breaches, they found a disturbing correlation. Several major credential leaks, attributed to other causes, had actually occurred shortly after the keyboard began collecting data in those regions. It was like finding the missing puzzle piece, explains Reed. Suddenly, breaches that had seemed unrelated showed a clear pattern. The keyboard was the common factor that no one had spotted. But the investigation was about to reveal something even more disturbing. The keyboard app wasn't acting alone. As the investigation expanded, security researchers discovered that TypeShift Pro wasn't just a rogue app. It was the creation of a sophisticated cyber espionage operation with connections to multiple technology companies. We followed the money, explains Reed. TypeShift Pro was ostensibly owned by a small development company, but when we dug into their corporate structure, we found a complex web of shell companies leading back to a major data analytics corporation called Data Harvest Global. Data Harvest Global wasn't just any analytics company. It was a key supplier of consumer insights to major corporations, advertising networks, and even government contractors, selling what they claimed was anonymized behavioral data for marketing purposes. But the most shocking discovery wasn't who was behind the keyboard. It was how they had gained access to millions of smartphones without raising any alarms. TypeShift Pro had passed every security certification and App Store review process with flying colors. How? Through an ingenious technical deception that exploited a fundamental loophole in how mobile operating systems handle keyboard permissions. The keyboard app requested permission to improve user experience through data analysis, explains Dr. Chen. Most users and even app reviewers assume this means anonymous analysis of typing patterns, but the terms of service, buried in thousands of words of legal language, included a single critical phrase, including keystroke timing patterns for service improvement. This seemingly innocent phrase created a legal loophole, while explicitly recording passwords and private messages would violate App Store policies. Recording keystroke timing patterns was vague enough to pass review, yet specific enough to legally cover the collection of everything users typed. It's the perfect digital sleight of hand, says Dr. Patel. Users thought they were approving basic analytics to improve autocorrect. What they actually authorized was complete surveillance over everything they typed. The investigation revealed that data collection through TypeShift had been linked to credential stuffing attacks against major financial institutions, targeted phishing campaigns using personal information, corporate espionage operations, identity theft rings, blackmail operations targeting high-profile individuals. But what the investigators found next revealed this wasn't just a sophisticated data theft operation. It was potentially the largest digital espionage campaign ever conducted against ordinary citizens. As digital forensics experts dug deeper into TypeShift's code, they discovered that the keyboard app wasn't just passively collecting what users typed. It was actively analyzing content to identify high-value targets. The application contained a sophisticated AI system that would flag users who typed certain keywords or phrases, explains Reed. Banking-related terms, corporate email domains, government addresses, anything that indicated the user had access to valuable accounts or information. Once a high-value target was identified, the keyboard would enter an enhanced collection mode, prioritizing the user's data and creating detailed behavior profiles that could be used to bypass security systems. This is what makes keystroke logging so dangerous, says Dr. Chen. It doesn't just capture your passwords. It captures how you type them. Many advanced security systems use typing patterns as a biometric authentication layer. Once attackers have your keystroke profile, they can potentially bypass these systems. This technique, known as behavioral pattern spoofing, represents one of the most advanced forms of security bypass in existence, capable of defeating even multi-factor authentication systems that rely on behavioral biometrics. The irony is that this same technology was originally developed to increase security, explains Dr. Patel. Behavioral biometrics are supposed to add an extra layer of protection. TypeShift essentially turned the system against itself. When investigators gained access to one of Data Harvest's development servers through a whistleblower, they discovered the true scale of the operation. Over 36 billion keystroke records from more than 200 million devices, organized into searchable profiles. This wasn't just random data collection, says Reed. This was a deliberate operation to build comprehensive digital profiles of millions of users, essentially creating a shadow surveillance system hidden inside a keyboard app. The evidence trail led investigators to a disturbing conclusion. Data Harvest wasn't just selling aggregate analytics. They were providing specific targeting packages to clients ranging from marketing firms to private intelligence companies, essentially offering access to millions of users' most sensitive information. But the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. When investigators analyzed the server's access logs, they found something that would transform this from a corporate scandal into an international security crisis. The server access logs revealed that Data Harvest's database wasn't just being accessed by commercial clients. They were regular connections from IP addresses linked to foreign intelligence services. This crossed the line from corporate espionage to national security threat, explains former intelligence analyst Rebecca Wong, who consulted on the case. Foreign intelligence agencies were essentially buying access to millions of Americans' private communications and sensitive information. The targeting wasn't random. Analysis showed particular interest in users who worked at defense contractors, technology companies, financial institutions, and government agencies, essentially creating a massive espionage operation hidden within a consumer app. With this level of keystroke data, a foreign intelligence service could identify potential recruitment targets based on financial difficulties revealed in private messages, map corporate security systems through login patterns, access sensitive government information through compromised credentials, and even track the movements and activities of key personnel, explains Wong. What made this operation particularly effective was its patience. The keystroke logger had been operating for over 2 years before discovery, slowly accumulating data and access without triggering any major security alarms. This represents a fundamental shift in how we need to think about mobile security, says Dr. Chen. We're not just protecting against hackers trying to break in. We're dealing with legitimate-seeming apps that we invite in ourselves, apps that exploit our trust and the permissions we grant them. The investigation revealed compromised devices in 46 countries, with particularly high concentrations in centers of government, finance, and technology, creating what security experts called the perfect intelligence gathering network. But TypeShift wasn't operating alone. When investigators examined its code signature, they found similarities in several other popular applications, suggesting that the same developers had created multiple compromised apps using different company identities. We've identified at least 7 other applications with similar code structures and data exfiltration techniques, reveals Reed. These apps have different functions, from photo editors to weather apps, but they all contain the same keystroke monitoring capabilities. The digital threat wasn't isolated to a single keyboard app. It was an entire ecosystem of seemingly legitimate applications, all quietly collecting users' most sensitive information. The TypeShift investigation led to immediate consequences across the technology landscape. Emergency removal of TypeShift Pro and related apps from major app stores, criminal charges against data harvest executives, congressional hearings on mobile app security, new regulations requiring clearer disclosure of data collection, international investigations into foreign intelligence connections. This case represents a turning point in mobile security, says Dr. Patel. It exposed a fundamental vulnerability in how we approach app permissions and data privacy. In response to the case, major operating system developers implemented enhanced protections. New keyboard security protocols requiring explicit consent for any keystroke data collection, visual indicators when keyboards are sending data, regular permission re-verification requirements, enhanced App Store security reviews, automatic detection of suspicious data transmission patterns. The silver lining to this case is that it forced a complete overhaul of how mobile operating systems handle sensitive input, explains Dr. Chen. Today's smartphones have far more robust protections against this type of surveillance. The investigation also led to broader industry changes, increased scrutiny of all third-party keyboard apps, new transparency requirements for data collection, regular security audits for high-download applications, enhanced detection systems for abnormal data transmission, user-friendly permission management tools. But the most important outcome isn't the technical changes. It's the awareness this case created about the risks hiding in our everyday applications. This investigation reveals a critical truth about our digital devices. Sometimes the biggest threats aren't sophisticated hackers. They're the everyday apps we trust with our most sensitive information. Here are 3 critical steps every smartphone user should take immediately. Audit your keyboard app permissions. Go to Settings, Apps, your keyboard app, Permissions, and revoke any unnecessary access, especially run in background and full network access. Switch to a trusted keyboard option. Consider using your device's built-in keyboard or verified open-source alternatives that have undergone security audits. Enable keyboard security monitoring. Most phones now include data monitoring tools that can alert you when any app, including your keyboard, is transmitting unusual amounts of data. Here's exactly how to check if your keyboard is sending data without your knowledge. Go to your phone's data usage settings. Check which apps are using background data, and look for any keyboard apps with high data usage despite minimal use. Remember, your keyboard has access to literally everything you type, from passwords to private messages. Treating it with the same security caution you would give to your banking app is not just prudent, it's essential. If you watch this far, you're clearly someone who understands that digital security goes beyond surface-level threats. You're part of what we call the digital sentinels, those who recognize the invisible risks that most people ignore. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. In today's connected world, knowing about digital threats before others can mean the difference between security and compromise. Join our community by commenting, "I've secured my digital keyboard," after checking your own smartphone settings. Share this video with everyone you know who uses a smartphone. What they don't know about their keyboard could put their most sensitive information at risk. The TypeShift case isn't an isolated incident, warns Reed. As our devices become more integrated into our lives, the value of the data they collect increases, and so does sophistication of those trying to access it. Staying vigilant isn't paranoia. It's necessary digital self-defense. As for Marcus Reed's discovery that started this investigation, The smartphone that secretly recorded every keystroke, it's now preserved in the Cybersecurity History Museum. A reminder that sometimes the biggest digital threats aren't breaking in through security flaws. They're walking right through the front door, inviting us with a simple accept button. This is Dark Data Files, decoding the digital underworld.